Alright guys, so today's video is going to be focused around True Vision. We're going to see basically what it is, how it works, how you can take advantage of it in the new game mode, whether it would possibly work on the standard game mode, what the current community opinion is on True Vision, and then kind of we'll move into how you can actually use it properly. We'll look at crew loadouts and stuff like that, so stay tuned for all of that. I will link timestamps on the video, so if you want to look at a particular point in the video you can do that there. Now I'm sure most of you know what True Vision is. If you do, you can always skip ahead to the next point in the video. I will timestamp it so you can check that out. But for those of you that don't, True Vision is this system separate from the current World War II game mode and any other World of Tanks version, so you've got PC Blitz. True Vision is a system whereby you will always be visible on the map and rendered into the game at all times. So even when you first load in, if you could actually see the enemies spawn, you'd be able to see everyone there. It wouldn't need a tank to be able to spot them. So the spotting system still works by, if you're within a spotting distance, it will highlight them on the map or in your game, so on your screen, but you will always be able to see them. So say if you were in a bush, it would be far harder for the enemy to hit you, whereas if they're in an open field, no one's close to them, you would still be able to see them crossing the field. They wouldn't have the little highlighted square above them. So that's what the True Vision system is. And hopefully that kind of gave you an indication as to what it is. I would have put some gameplay in the background just to show you what that is. A little bit of history towards True Vision is that it was actually introduced into the standard game as part of a test by Wargaming to see whether it would actually work on console or not. As part of the standard World War II game mode, it was basically said that the community and people who voted on a poll which they released said that they absolutely do not want True Vision in the standard game mode, so they completely got rid of the idea. They tested it I think 3 times, all 3 times it was voted out that they did not want it, the game was better without it, or the game was just like, it was really no difference to them. And that only actually 30% said that they actually wanted True Vision. So that's a very, very small amount of players, obviously comparatively to the other players that voted they didn't want it. So the next big question I guess we have to ask is, does it work on this new game mode? Has the development of True Vision worked on a solely separate game mode that actually has been worked upon from the very beginning with True Vision in mind? Have the new maps actually made True Vision possible, and has it actually worked very well? Now obviously this is opinionated, and you can give your own opinions in the comment section down below, and I'd really like you to do that because it's always interesting to see what you guys have to say. Obviously you can have a look at what everyone else thinks as well. Personally, for me, I think that the True Vision system in the Cold War game mode works well on the maps that they've brung it into. It works absolutely horrendously on the maps that they were already in the game, the standard battle maps. I think that's because what happens is the maps weren't designed as part of the True Vision, so the developers haven't made any kind of obstacles to stop people from sniping each other from the base. You have maps like Highway where you can literally see the enemies in the base from the very beginning of the game, which means that people can then sit in their spawn, they can shoot at each other from their spawn, and very little movement happens on that game. I also find that you get punished if you move on a game like Highway because it's so open. You cannot cross on basically the area, the hilly area, down through near the river. You have to go through the town if you want to actually push, and even then, once you've won the town, you pretty much can't push at all. I mean, on the standard game mode you also don't really want to push from the town, but what it does mean is that even if you try and push now through the town, you're going to get sniped by a load of campers in base, and that's the thing I've been finding slightly annoying about this new game mode. It's made the game very stale. Now, what do I mean by that? So in terms of whereas the standard game mode will always be pushing towards something else, I mean, yes, you do get the occasional camper or the team that goes a silly way, but in this one it just seems like people don't even go away. They kind of just sit there, they kind of wait for the enemy team to kind of make a mistake, wait for one of your team to actually try and push up, who then spots enemies or is getting shot at by enemies, and then they can actually pick out someone that's sat camping doing the exact same thing as them. And then it just becomes whose accuracy is better, and I just don't think that that's the gameplay I would personally want to play on a regular basis. And so that's why I kind of have been not really playing the Cold War game mode as much as I liked to when it first came out. So I think that that's the key thing. Obviously I've tested it out quite a bit. I've played a fair few games, probably like 30 games on this Cold War game mode, so I've played it a decent amount, and I just don't think that currently I'm enjoying it as much as I could. I enjoy the game mode when it's actually on those 4 new maps, you know, Kalbang, Fredvong, the maps that have actually been designed for True Vision, because it works well, because there's loads of obstacles in the way to avoid people from just camping. It allows you to push up, it allows you to use the obstacles as a way to actually push forward, and it actually works very well, and that's credit where credit is due. That is perfect. Now, when you bring in these new maps or the old maps into the new one, it just doesn't work, and I'd really like Wargaming to actually remove the option to play those maps on the Cold War game mode, because it doesn't work. It's not fun, it's not really riveting, you're not getting any real action in them. They're kind of just really stale, like I said. What I have found that does work quite well, however, in this new game mode is obviously the smokescreen consumable can be used to some degree to be able to outperform other players and have a really good game. I think it kind of just is in that case where you can actually use it as kind of a strategic consumable, whereby you can place it down somewhere. It lasts for 15 seconds if you've got the premium one. You can then redeploy yourself in various different ways. You can kind of outthink the opponent. So if you plant it in one place, they're going to be looking there, and you can pull up and take some shots at them from a different area where they weren't expecting it. Now, that is really, really good in terms of trying to just outplay your opponent. It's really, really satisfying when they just don't expect you to be in an area that you now pop up in, and that is something that is kind of good. I like that. I like the idea of smokescreen. I think it works kind of well. It's not my favourite equipment and or consumable, and it certainly isn't one that's super overpowered, and it's not going to, you know, make you survive in a game where you've made a really bad mistake, but it does help out. And I think that it works with the True Vision system, whereby if you do actually get attacked in an area which you weren't expecting to be actually spotted in, or if loads of the enemy team are actually taking shots at you, you can pop it, you can retreat down from wherever you were safely, and then be able to, you know, go on with your game and have some really good impact for the rest of it anyway. Some suggestions I'd actually have for True Vision is actually to make spotting more of a priority than it currently is, because obviously everyone can see everyone. It doesn't really promote anyone actually going to spot or do anything like that. Like, obviously you get spotting damage if you spot someone in your team or attacking them, but it doesn't actually promote you to actually go out there and spot them other than that. So I think that going out and spotting should give you a bit more of a benefit. I think if they increase the time that someone was spotted in this Cold War game mode, so if you spotted them, they'd be spotted for, say, 15 seconds instead of the current 10 seconds or whatever it is. I think it might even have been reduced when they brought in True Vision, so people aren't even spotted as long as they used to be. Really weird spotting system, and I think that you should be rewarded more for actually pushing and being the player that spots the enemy team, actually spotting them, so when they light up on the map and when they light up on your screen. So I think that that's something I would look into as Wargaming, just to increase, you know, people moving out and actually trying to spot for your team. The final part of this video, I want to tell you some really, really good commander system perks that you can actually put on your tank to be able to make yourself more effective in the game in order for this True Vision, because obviously your commanders, if you've transferred them from the World War II game mode onto this mode, which you can do, I would recommend changing your perks, because obviously it's a different system. Some of them become less effective, and so I think that this is kind of a way that I would go with these perks. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to respec one of my crews in order for this mode. Now, these are the standard perks that I used to have. I've got a lot of the camo ones because camo actually meant something, not being spotted, but I don't think it is important as it actually would. So we're going to actually confirm the respec of our crew. Once we do that, all of our perks have now been reset. We're able to pick 9 perks that we can actually put on our commander for this mode. Now, first things first, Born Leader, still a really good kind of perk to have. It increases the skill effectiveness by 10%, so that will boost all of the other skills that we have on our tank by 10%, which is really fantastic, and we're going to put that on. So the next perk, what we'll go with is Rapid Loading, because that is key. Increase of DPM by 10% is fantastic, and you know, for a perk or a skill, that should be really beneficial, and you'll be able to, you know, output more damage in a shorter amount of time, which is really good. So that's the key thing. Next one, Accuracy. Now, accuracy is a massive thing in this new True Vision system, because what you want to be doing is hitting every single one of your shots on the opponents whenever you see them. Now, obviously, accuracy means more at longer ranges, because the dispersion is actually more. So, say at 100 meters, your accuracy might be 0.2, so 0.2 of a meter at 100 meters, or something very similar. Whereas at 500 meters, it could be like 0.6, 0.7. So it's very hard to hit someone at longer ranges. Longer ranges on these new maps and this new True Vision system is something that happens a lot more. So fighting at longer ranges is key. So what we're going to now also do is actually put on 12% increase to accuracy during turret rotation. Now, Snapshot is really good. It will decrease the bloom of your tank when you're actually trying to fire at someone when you're turning the turret. So say if you want to turn, it's going to basically mean that you'll be more accurate in that regard anyway. Now, you could go for Run and Gun, which is a 10% increase to accuracy when moving, which can be really handy for if you're trying to get into position. In terms of on this, I don't think I will actually put it on, just because you don't really fire on the move that much in this new game mode, because it doesn't really work out very well. So we won't be putting that on, and I think that we'll kind of look at some of the other perks instead. Now, what I would usually recommend with these kind of tanks is actually increasing your camo factor and also your other various different camo expertise and stuff like that to be able to not get spotted by the opponents. But for me personally, in this new game mode, it doesn't really make much of a difference having the camo perks on, because you are constantly detected. So making sure that you have other things in the game that give you an advantage in terms of either your kind of view range or stuff like that that can spot enemy tanks would rather be one of the things that I'd go for. So what I will go with is the situational awareness perk. That will give me better view range. I'll go for the Mark Target perk, which will also increase the time that the enemy team is spotted by 3 seconds, which is actually quite a beneficial amount. It'll mean you can get a lot more spotting damage, which could be really good for getting those marks of excellence if you're going to go for them in the Cold War game mode. And then we're kind of looking at this Sixth Sense. Now, for me personally, I always would pick Sixth Sense on the World War II game mode, but it isn't actually that much of a necessity now on the new game mode. I think that the targeted option works very well, but the Sixth Sense isn't really something that you have to get now. Now, that's quite controversial in itself. Sometimes I don't think, since you're always spotted and you're always detected, or not detected, but you're always kind of visible on the map, it really doesn't make much of a difference, because if you're using a bush, it's very hard for the enemy to actually see you. And if you know kind of the mechanics behind it, you know, if you get targeted, that means you are spotted, which means you need to get out of there wherever you are. If you pop a smoke, you're done. You can leave then, really easy. And that's why I'd run a smoke consumable alongside if I didn't take Sixth Sense, but it is a perk that you could potentially use if you want to. Now, In terms of other things, you could go with radio range, which will basically increase the amount of distance that you can actually see enemy tanks on the minimap and also in game when your team spot them. Not particularly too big of a thing, but it might be useful. But I think for this game mode, what I will be doing is actually increasing my accuracy even further. So I will put run and gun on just for that 10% boost to accuracy when on the move, so you won't have bloomed out as much when you've been moving. The dispersion is less. For the American ones, maybe putting on hold traverse speed is actually a good one, or actually putting on handling on soft terrain and boost to handling on moderately soft terrain is actually really good for this as well. So that's the two kind of things I'd go for as far as my perks. And then the last one, I'm kind of debating whether I want to put on the 6th Sense perk or whether I'd actually go with something else. But I think for me personally, I will actually go with 6th Sense just because I'm kind of used to it and I want to see how it actually plays with it being on the tank in this new game mode. So those are the 9 perks that I would have gone for. If you kind of would have made any changes, then make sure to actually let me know in the comment section down below and what you thought of these perks. So if you're playing in this tank and you've got a 9 skill commander that you want to respec, these are the perks that I would recommend personally. I don't think you need the camo ones as much as you maybe once did on the standard game mode. So be sure to let me know what you think. And if you think anything else, then obviously I am open to suggestions and I'll try it out with various different setups in this new game mode in order to have some really, really good videos and gameplay for you guys to actually see in game. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy the video and that you watched it to the end. I hope it kind of gave you some insight as to True Vision, whether I thought it was actually good. Overall, my opinion is that it's okay on this new game mode, but I don't want to see it anywhere near the World War II game mode because it just doesn't work. I don't want to see it in, or I don't want to be playing World War II maps on this new game mode because it doesn't work. I don't particularly like True Vision because it just promotes camping, to be honest with you, but I do think that it kind of works a little bit on this new mode because the maps have been developed in that way and you can actually play aggressively on the maps should you know where to go on them and you know the routes and putting obstacles in between you and lines of sight on the map. So hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content from me on this channel. There'll be more guides and stuff. I think the next video that I do will be between the 2 different tech trees, which one you should go for out of the 2, and then give my opinion on that. If you want to check out some more Modern Tanks content, then there will be one on screen right now, so you can check that out. If you don't, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.